Hello, friends. Welcome to our estate planning webinar. We know that you could be a lot of places, and we're so grateful that you are with us here tonight. We're going to be learning how to discover and safeguard your estate and eliminate taxes on your assets. And kicking it off for us tonight is my business partner, my friend, Mr. Gary Guam. This man knows more about how money works and how to estate plans than most people twice and maybe even triple his age. So, Gary, I'm going to pass the baton to you and let's get started.
Appreciate it. Awesome. I'll share my screen here. Let me know when you can all see my screen here.
Yep, we can see you, Gary.
Awesome. Well, perfect. Today, again, my name is Gary, and today the topic we're going to be going over is going to be about estate planning. Discover how to safeguard your estate and eliminate taxes on your assets. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're probably wondering, look at his face, who is this young little Asian kid talking to me about estate planning? And who does he know about estate planning? I know. I'm actually 40 years old, guys. You know what to say, Asian don't raisin. I'm just kidding. I'm not 40 years old, but I have been in the industry for about 6 years now, leading up to my 7th year. I'm an agency manager here at Valor Solutions. We're a faith-based nationwide agency with over 200 agents. I'm a trainer and implementer of our 5-step financial certainty review. I grew up in the San Gabriel Valley and I also graduated UCSD. Now, this is also my family here. My mom, you can see in the right corner, my niece, my brother, and also my brother's wifey. Now, before we get started, I do want to take a little bit of a moment to share a little bit about myself and my story and why I'm even talking to you guys today as to why it pertains to estate planning. Now, one thing you should know about my family is that we're very, very close to achieving our own little version of what we call the American dream. Now, the reason why I want to share about that is because I got to rewind a little bit back to when my mom came here. So my mom, she came here. She's a poor rural farmer from Futsan, China. And she got a one-way ticket here to Los Angeles, California with only $100 in her pocket. She barely knew any English, but she's actually able to build a great life for herself here. She and my dad got married, got 2 boys, and I'm actually the youngest one. And they're able to build a great middle-class lifestyle. And they actually had a decent sized property where they're actually able to build 3 separate homes on that single property. One of the homes with me and my family, 2 of the other homes with my 2 other aunties and their families as well. And things were looking pretty good. We had a nice middle yard where I remember all the cousins playing, and I remember we had family gatherings pretty often. And in those family gatherings, and life was looking really, really good up until I turned about 10 years old. When I was 10 years old, my dad, he was actually diagnosed with cancer. And a few months later, he had unfortunately passed away, and our lives were completely changed afterwards. And at that point, I still remember today. One thing you should know about my family, my mom and dad's, that they're really great savers, which is why they're able to build that life in the first place. But they were not prepared. They did not have an estate plan, nor did it have any financial strategies. And in that moment, I still remember this day after he passed that I remember we had our aunties like knocking on our door, knocking on our door. And I remember them having heated arguments late at night. And I remember they even escalated to a point where one of my uncles were threatening us for a gun, and cops were called, and things just went down here from there. And all because of what? All because of money and finances. And now that we found ourselves in a point of our lives where I lost my dad, he was the main breadwinner family, lost a home, and we lost family members because we never spoke to each other afterwards for a long time. And now we found ourselves, me and my mom, our brother, all downsized to this one size bedroom apartment, all stuck up in a tiny little room. And we found ourselves now, and I have to give props here. I want to share my screen again because I want to give major props to my mom right here in the upper right hand corner, because she worked her butt off to make sure me and my brother are okay. And I thank her and I love her all the time because of that. But because of that, I had a lot of sacrifices. And some of the sacrifices were that family time that was pretty much non-existent, and going out to eat is for very, very special occasion. I remember all the other kids talked about traveling, going out to eat with their family, and that stuff didn't really exist in my life anymore. And not because of what? All because we did not have an estate plan or any financial strategies. Now I know money isn't everything, nor does it buy us happiness, but who here can agree that money can make things a heck of a lot easier? So why am I telling this? I'm telling this because I'm sure each and every single one of you here who are on this webinar, the reason you're on here is that you probably are great savers, probably even great investors, which is why you even want to learn how to protect your state in the first place and pass it down to your family. However, it was in that pivotal point in my life what I call a Kairos moment. Please write it down. A Kairos, a Kairos moment in my life. Up until I graduated college, got my degree, got my licenses, became a financial professional, helped hundreds of clients. I realized at that point in my life where I felt all the lack, the scarcity, all that could have actually been solved with an estate plan and a few simple financial strategies. So why am I telling this? I'm telling this because this is the reason why I do what I do. This is the reason why I get every morning helping clients avoid similar scenarios, although not exactly like mine, but scenarios where you're entering a Kairos moment like right now, if you do not have the proper financial strategy in place. It can impact how you live out the rest of your life and impact your family as well. And we see it happen all the time. People live a great lifestyle while they're working, they have consistent income. And then once they decide to retire, wait, now you only have this one lump sum of money. How are you going to make this last for the next 20, 30 years? And more often than not, we see people have to downsize, to cut back in their lifestyle. Worst case nightmare scenario, have to go back to work, just go to a local Walmart. You see elderly people working there. They're not there because they want to. They're there because they have to. And they have to downsize and they live out the rest of their life in what I call the scarcity mindset. And that is not how life should be lived, especially now after all the hard work, the blood, sweat, and tears that you built your life up to this point right now. You should not have to start back from ground zero. So today, that's why we're going to be going over an estate plan. Number one, how to protect yourself, how to protect your family, and also we'll also be going over something called estate maximization. Because our big promise to you today is that we will show you how to protect everything you worked your whole life to build, your home, your money, your retirement accounts, from probate, taxes,
Anybody here?
government interference. I'm sorry, someone. So our big promise for you today is that even if you don't have enough to worry about, even if you put it off for years, and even if the whole idea of estate planning sounds overwhelming, we're going to walk through a simple 3-step system that'll help you. So we're going to be going over what we call life realizations. The L stands for leverage your financial assets while you're alive, so you could grow and protect your estate with strategic planning and tax-free wealth tools. Now, we all have an uncle. No, not that crazy uncle I was talking about, but an uncle that is always looking at us and how much income we're receiving. And you have the same uncle. Guess what his name is? His name is Uncle Sam. So who here, raise your hand if you think it would be pretty cool if you could start receiving money from your retirement accounts, but don't have to pay taxes. If that sounds good to you, we're going to be going over that today, how to create tax-free wealth for yourself as well as for your family. I is for insulate, how to insulate your estate from probate and heavy taxation. We're going to create a rock solid trust for yourself, protect yourself and your assets, and also protect your pre-tax assets from IRS erosion. F is for fortify your medical and incapacity plans so that you can avoid guardianship court and medical chaos with legal safeguards. Like, God forbid, for example, if you were getting a car crash, God forbid, and now you're in a hospital, you're in a coma, or you can't really make any decisions for yourself, if you do not have something called a power of attorney or healthcare directives, guess what? That means that if you can't make a decision for yourself, your family's gonna have to go through court to make those decisions for you. Not only now is your family gonna have to be worried about your well-being, but they're also got to worry about a whole lengthy court process to make those decisions for you, and that comes with time, stress, and also comes with lawyer fees as well, which we're going to show you how to avoid that. E is for empower your loved ones with a solid legacy strategy, design an inheritance plan that preserves both your wealth and your values. Because one thing about estate planning is that most people don't think about, like, by the time, God forbid, you pass away, will you even have enough or something to leave behind to your family? So today we're going to be making sure that we can preserve your wealth, even grow it to a point where you will have something to pass down to your family, and also preserve your values as well, which we'll talk about in a bit. Now let's keep moving. Who here thinks, raise your hand, that you'll need a will? Who here thinks that you'll need a trust? Who here thinks that they'll need a power of attorney? Who here thinks that they'll need a HIPAA waiver? You're probably wondering, what's a HIPAA waiver? We're going to go over that. Who here thinks that they'll pay taxes on their retirement? Who here thinks that long-term care will affect your future? Who here thinks that they might not have anything for the family if they God forbid, passed away? If you answered yes to any of these, you are in the right place tonight. So let's keep moving. Today, we're going to be going over what we have called financial realization, which can lead to financial implementation. Now, we all know and heard about financial education. I think financial education is pretty overrated. You could go to YouTube University, Google, even ChatGPT nowadays, but who knows what's right and what's pertaining to your situation. So that's why we're going to go over financial realization, which can lead to implementation. Because education, just think about in high school. You study for a test, you get an education, you pass a test, probably pretty good grades, but 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 years later, how are you going to be using that education? More often than not, I have a lot of friends that graduated college and don't even use their degrees. So that's why today we want to make sure you got financial realization, which should lead you to take action, a plan of action to solve these issues so that you can implement these strategies and you won't have to worry about protecting and making sure your family's okay. Let's keep moving. So our estate maximizer is a simple 3-step framework. Number 1, shield it smartly. Establish a revocable living trust so that you convert tax deferred to tax free. As I said earlier, you could be able to get income that's tax free and not have to worry about anything. The third thing is you also be able to protect. And the third thing is that you also be able to protect from long-term care cash issues. Because here's the crazy statistic. If you're over 65 years old, you actually have a 70% chance of going into long-term care. Long-term care can be really expensive. Our agency director, Alvin, he has a mother-in-law who has in-home long-term care, and guess how much it costs? It costs about $13,000 a month. That's a lot of money, and it can easily chip away your estates. And for my family as well, my mom, my grandma at least, she had dementia really recently, and my mom had to completely stop working to take care of her full time. It's a full-time job, and it costs a lot of money. So we want to make sure we can help protect yourself from that, so that you'll at least not have long-term care chip away your estate and not leave anything behind to your family. So number 2, let's keep moving. Build it right. How to maximize your assets, how to create leveraged accounts, tax advantage, accessible, and convertible. And number 3, pass it on with purpose. Leave a lifetime legacy resource and also set up something, or what we call a waterfall plan. Who here has heard of the Rockefellers? You probably have, right? The big oil person. They're in their area. He was actually the second wealthiest person in the world, coming after the Vanderbilts. But guess what? 7 generations later, the Rockefellers are actually wealthier than the Vanderbilts. And that's because the Rockefellers set up something called a waterfall plan, which is ensure that each generation will be to preserve and grow their wealth generation after generation. So we'll make sure to do that and go over how to do that for you guys as well. And we're going to have something called complimentary consultation and reports. So this is a compass planning guide. A quick question. Do you know if your current plan will run out of money before you pass away? If you don't, you should probably know, because if you're here on this call, you're most likely want to pass down your assets to your family. If you don't know if your money's going to run out, if you create an estate plan and your assets run out, there's no point in that. So you want to make sure that you know the truth about your current reality. And we're also going to go over an estate maximizer plan, so that how to create steps to increase your assets that the wealthy use regularly to be able to build more and preserve it as well. And these 2 reports, guess what? We're going to give it as something called a 4-letter word. It starts with an F. 4-letter word that starts with an F. I know what you're thinking. It's not that. It's free. We're going to give these 2 things for free. Now, please do not value the word free. There's actually, when people just think of free, they usually devalue it. But today, I want to make sure, because there's no such thing as free lunch. It's free for you guys, but for us, we pay thousands and thousands of dollars for these plans here. And the reason why we're giving this away we could charge a lot for this, but the reason we're giving away for free is because when I think about my family and my mom and dad, if I were to go back in time and I was a financial professional, I want to make sure that my mom and dad, they know the reality, the truth about their situation. so that they could make sure that they could properly prepare. And that's the reason why I do what I do. And even if you're like, Gary, I like you, I like the plans you're showing, great, we'll love to work for you and give you these free reports. But even if you don't, like, Gary, you suck, you're full of baloney, get out of my face, no problem. I still want to make sure that we'll give you these free reports so that you know the truth, because the truth will set you free. And even if you decide to work with us or not, at least now you know the reality of your situation, and you could take realization and action to make sure that your family is protected and they're not going to have to go through what I had to go through. Because living a nice middle class lifestyle, downsizing to nearly being broke, it is not fun. So please, I highly encourage you guys to book a 15-minute strategy call, get these 2 free reports, because the truth will set you free. And next, step 1 is Sheila Smartly, how to establish an estate plan. So is there anyone that shouldn't have an estate plan? No. Everyone should have an estate plan regardless of your situation or net worth. Estate planning, by definition, is the process of mapping out how you want your personal and financial affairs to be handled in the case of incapacity or death, and creating the legal documents to do so. So here's some interesting statistics. 12% here, as you see, just don't understand the will-making process. 13% think it costs too much. 33% believe that their assets aren't valuable enough to warrant a will. And 40%, the majority, 40%, just simply haven't made time for it yet. So that is number 1 reason. Please make sure that you're not just a number there, and that you could make sure you get the proper guidance and direction. Because our mission is that we're going to offer a completely done with you from start to finish program to get all your finances in order. And our done for you program, we're going to have a create the living trust. We pretty much hold your hand throughout the entire process so that we can answer your questions. We can create the drafts for you, do a will, a pour of a will, a healthcare directive, a power of attorney. We make sure that we can fund your trust properly. And we also get the deeds for you, help you with every step of the way. And we even have something called a mobile notary, where a notary can come to your home, get the notary signed, get it all done, hold your hand throughout the entire process, and guess how much it will cost. I'll tell you for you up front, because this is a very competitive price. Our price is going to be $14.95, a full done with you program from start to finish. And on top of that, we have our estate maximization. Most people, they have the estate plan, but they don't go through estate maximization, because if you do not have that estate maximization, who knows, if you run out of money, no point in creating an estate plan in the beginning, because there's nothing left to give. So we want to make sure we do the full thing and make sure that your family protected, and we can leave a nice legacy for you and your family. Because if it shows, the stats show, by next year, if you don't have one, you're probably never going to have one. So I empower you to take action, because everyone that books an appointment today, you'll be entered into our drawing at the end of the webinar to get a $200 hotel discount voucher. That sounds pretty cool, right? Go on vacation, $200 hotel discount voucher. So let's keep moving. So our estate maximization program, again, revocable trust, simple will, pour of will, durable power of attorney, advanced healthcare directive, etc. Like I mentioned earlier. Okay, printed legal documents, in-person notary, like I said, property deed filing, funding it properly, all of that whole shebang. Again, all for $14.95. If you find a better price on the market, tell us and we'll match it. So our mission and our motto is that there's no family left behind. And we have over 10,000 clients in our agency, and we saw the issue that they're going through. So we created the second part again, the financial certainty review. So this FCR, financial certainty review, provides you a plan for now as well as for the future, so you can preserve and be able to maximize your estate to leave nothing behind. So why should you have an estate plan? Just a question. Anyone experienced probate process? If you have, I've never heard anyone say, "Oh, I love probate. I want to do probate again." Said no one ever. Probate is a long and lengthy process of legally transferring assets to your loved ones after you pass away. So why should you avoid it? You should avoid it because the first step is an appraisal. So after you pass away, an appraiser is come to your home. They're going to say, "Oh, this is worth that, this is worth that, this is worth that." And by the end, they're going to come off a total estate valuation. Just for example, it's a $500 home, for example, and you also have a $500 IRA. This means your total estate is about $1 million. Estate fees can range between 5 to 10%. So let's cut around the middle, 7%. 7% is $70,000 probate fees, which includes the attorney fees, executive fees, bond fees, court costs, appraisal fees, and $70,000 is the cost of doing nothing. Who can read? This is BS. This is you have to pay $70,000 to be able to pass down the assets that you already own, something you already paid for. Why do you need to pay $70,000 to pass down something you already own? It is complete BS. And just a question here: would you rather put in $14.95 or pay $70,000 to pass down your estate? Sounds like a dumb question, but it is very real, and most people don't get this done. Next, probate average time in California, at least, is about 2 years for probate. And the solution to this is a living trust. So, a living trust is a legal document that allows a person to pass their assets to family members or beneficiaries without the probate proceedings. So, here's what a revocable living trust can do. Usually, the assets go to probate, then to your heirs. And then with a revocable living trust, it pretty much replaces the probate. You pretty much give the court, hey, this is the revocable living trust, just like that. It passes down to your family smoothly, with ease, and without all the headache. Now, the advantages of a trust is that, number one, avoids probate, quick distribution, it keeps your estate private, the courts have no control over your assets, it reduces emotional stress, and it's completely flexible while you're alive, and it can change it as time goes on. It's a living and breathing entity. So who is a living trust for? A living trust is for people who have real estate at home, assets of $100,000 or over. If you have insurance at $100,000 over, yes. An IRA, 401k, adult children, minor children, significant business income. If you have a special needs child, you definitely need one. A blended family. So some of the frequently asked questions here is a revocable or versus an irrevocable trust. A revocable trust is designed to avoid probates. You're in control of your assets other than a living and breathing entity. You can make any changes that you like. And once you pass away, it becomes irrevocable upon your death. An irrevocable trust is designed to protect assets. You're legally removed from the rights to ownership, and you cannot make any changes. Once it's done, it's set in stone. You cannot make any changes. For irrevocable, that's a very small percentage of people who utilize that. Most people will utilize a revocable trust. If you have any questions, let us know at the end. And our second realization here is how will my family suffer if I die without a plan? How much pain, grief, and money will I save by my family by having an estate plan? So again, one of the big reasons why I'm so passionate about this is because it has so deeply affected my life, and I'll never want this to happen to anyone. Because living a decent middle class lifestyle, and then by unexpected events, it can make or break how you live out the rest of your life. I want to make sure that you and your family, that you guys are protected. So right now, I'd like to also hand it over to our next speaker. This is Lisa. She's she's a veteran in the industry again, and she's also an expert. So I just like to pass it on to Lisa Williams.
Thanks, Gary. You're so good. I tell you, it's my absolute joy and pleasure working with partners like Gary. I love the wisdom that he passes on. I wish someone had talked to me when I was Gary's age, right? So friends, we're gonna shift now, and we're gonna shift a little bit and start talking about some of the tax advantages that you can really implement today to maximize your retirement. For those of you that are wondering who is this girl talking to me, just a little bit about myself. I am one of the agency managers here at Valorum Solutions. I've been very, very blessed to be in this industry for over 30 years. And in fact, I was actually in corporate for a couple of decades and actually had two financial advisors before shifting and becoming an advisor myself. I was very blessed. I was a multi-million dollar producer in the corporate world. Why is that important to you, friends? Because I know exactly the things that you can do, that Wall Street is doing all the time, that the wealthy are doing. And I was feeling very disgruntled that Main Street families were not getting this knowledge. As Gary said, we have about 200 agents nationwide, and we are a faith-based agency. And I am one of the trainers and implementers of the 5-step financial certainty review that Gary referenced. I have a crazy, beautiful blended family. Sometimes you have to switch husbands to get your girl, which I did. These are my kiddos. This is my husband. And I was actually born and raised in Alaska. Just as we're jumping in, I want to give you a quick little lesson first of all about what happened after the CARES Act. Right, raise of hands for those of you that remember when this came out. Maybe you're not clear what it actually meant. That is one of our roles, is to keep you abreast as your financial advocate and strategist of what is happening. By the way, did anyone hear about the new crypto legislation last week? We're going to be sending out a newsletter about that next week, so watch for that. But one of the things that happened in the CARES Act is it actually increased your RMD age. It's actually now this slide is outdated. It's now 73 years old. It also eliminated the stretch IRA for non-spousal beneficiaries. Why does that mean? Basically, when I pass away, my children used to have the benefit to take my IRA distributions over their lifetime. What the IRS did is they changed that, so now it has to be done in 10 years. They also remove contribution age limits for IRA accounts. They automatically increase the distribution in accounts to 15%, which means they're basically automatically enrolling eligible employees. Now, this might not be important to you if you perhaps are already in a plan, company sponsored plan, or maybe you're already retired. But I tell you who it's very important for is our children, because they are automatically being enrolled in these plans, whether it's good for them or not, or whether they want to or not, if they don't notify their employer. So really important information. One of the things that this CARES Act did do, though, is something very, very special for the consumer, which is they're now allowing partial Roth conversion strategies. And we're going to get into that. So the question I want you to ask yourself is, where are taxes going? Are they going lower? Are they going higher? Whether, this is not a political statement, whether the administration, if the administration does nothing, they will automatically raise in 2026. And why is this important? Because a couple of things. Our national debt levels are at an all-time high. We also are seeing the lowest tax rates in the history of our lifetime. So my question to you is, does it make sense to pay taxes on the seed or the harvest? Does it make sense to pay taxes now when you know what the rates are, or to keep pushing that tax bill down the line? Okay, because friends, if you get to the age where you have to take your RMDs and you have done nothing, your tax bill is going to continue to increase. It could be like the example I have of my client Mila. She's 83 years old. She has over $1 million in her former 401k, which is now an IRA in her name. And guess what? Her biggest complaint is that her tax burden keeps increasing because her RMDs keep increasing. She does actually not even need the income because she has a pension. Unfortunately, Miss Mila is too old now to actually be able to implement some of these plans. So our goal, friends, is really for you to take action, because proper planning can fix this issue for you. Now, obviously, you can do absolutely nothing. You can continue to defer and pay unknown taxes later. You also can choose to pay one flat big lump sum of taxes right now. This is obviously a known rate. Or you can actually work with somebody like ourselves. One of our estate planning teams, our maximum income planning teams, and really learn tax efficient planning options that include Roth conversions. So Roth conversions can really provide really a hedge of protection against future tax rates. Taxes are one of the biggest concerns that I personally get day to day from my retiree clients. So they really allow you to pay taxes today in the known rates. So therefore, no income tax is due when you are continuing to have those required minimum distributions. And a really, really important part of this is that therefore it does not count towards tax on Social Security benefits. This is an example of a client that I worked with a couple of weeks ago, and we were able to save him over 480,000 on his portfolio just over time, just simply by implementing this strategy. This is, this is a lot of numbers here, but I'll show you bottom line. By implementing this strategy today, he's going to be able to save over 637,000 in income. This is money that is coming into him and his wife. Eventually, any money that has not been spent will therefore be passed on to their beneficiaries tax-free. So my question, friends, to you, as you are thinking about this, how are taxes affecting your future? And the question is, how much more income could your portfolio actually produce if it was more tax efficient? If you actually had some strategy. So again, we're going to keep dropping this link for you. Have you booked your complimentary session with us yet? And we're going to be doing a drawing at the end of the workshop. For those of you that do book your complimentary session, you will be entered to win a $200 hotel discount voucher. Okay, so let's keep moving on. Now let's talk about step 3, actually shielding your portfolio smartly. I was on a call earlier with a client. He is actually a hedge fund manager for in the crypto economy. And we were having a conversation about something called human economic life value. And my question to him was, Todd, what are you doing? I know you have this huge crypto hedge fund, but let me ask you, what are you doing to protect your hedge fund? God forbid you are no longer here. And I'm going to invite you to do a quick calculation. Ask yourself right now, who is depending on your income right now? Now, if the answer is no one, which a lot of my retirees maybe either are single, or even if something happened to the other one, they might still financially be okay. So the next question I would add to that is, how much do you depend on the bulk of your estate being intact so that you can continue to draw income? What insulation have you put around your portfolio? I'm going to share a calculation called your human life value. Every single one of us has it. What you do is you take the amount of money that you earn annually and you times it by either the number of years you continue to plan on working, or number 2, your life expectancy. If you're already retired, I would times it by your life expectancy. Okay. And that equals the amount of your human economic life value. I'm going to give you an example. This is actually a case that's very, very near and dear to my heart, because my best friend, Elizabeth, when she was in her early 40s, she was diagnosed with ovarian cancer. Now, Elizabeth and her husband had a life insurance plan on each of them. At the time, it was over $1 million, and she had actually gotten it very, very early in life. She was actually only paying about $35 a month. Okay. And during a time that was difficult in their budget crunching one month, they had halted the policy. Okay. Now, what did this do? Number one, it immediately removed the highest form of leverage from this family's portfolio, because Elizabeth got ovarian cancer. She was never insured again. And she really could have used something like this, that, she got sick. She actually wanted to seek alternate treatment that traditional health insurance wouldn't provide. But because she didn't have a plan like this, she couldn't tap into it, because this plan not only gives your family a massive death benefit if, God forbid, something happens to you, but it also provides a volatility shield for your wealth. If you personally get sick or injured and you're unable to care for yourself and perform two of the daily living activities. That's why they're calling life insurance today. The evolution of life insurance is really living insurance. Because what's the number one killer of wealth, Gary? Death, of course. Death and taxes are certainties, right? The number one killer of wealth is health related issues and taxes, a close second. So imagine if you could insulate your wealth by a plan like this. What would happen to my loved ones if they lost my income? And how much of your human economic life value do you want your family to receive? I just sat down with a young actually a father about my age. He's 54, and we were able to get him over $1 million in coverage for $65 a month. It's insane just how affordable these things are. So don't think just because you might be older, like myself, I call myself the next, I'm living the best chapter in my 50s and beyond, right? It doesn't mean that it may not be something that you can get, right? So step three, really create a leveraged long-term care plan. Let's talk about this a little bit. Now, let's just talk statistically about what's happening in our world and how we are all living so much longer, right? An average 65-year-old can expect to live another 19, on average up to 22 years old. And yet, a third of 65-year-olds will actually need some sort of long-term care in their life. So the average American is living 18 years, but eventually they could go 20 or 30 years. So it really creates a big risk of running out of money. Now, if the 65-year-old, that one third of 65-year-olds do need long-term care, the average is about 285,000 in cost. So my question to you is, friends, as you're thinking about your own situation, right? If you know that 70% of people will require some like type of long-term care, what is your plan? So we want to provide for you an example of this. This is one of our product providers. Everyone knows that jingle Nationwide is on your side, right? This is a product by Nationwide. This is an example of how we were able to help a client really just move what we call idle assets. She had over $200,000 sitting in a CD, really not doing very well for her. And she simply repositioned that asset. She took 100,000 out of the CD. It was expiring in the next couple of months anyway. She repositioned it to this Nationwide product. Now, what is this going to do? If she doesn't get sick and she's great, and then comes 6 years later, if the product goes for 6 years, she will have over quadruple the value. 100,000 grows to over 476,000 in long-term care costs if she needs it. Now, what happens if she uses it all and then she passes away? She'll still have an extra 31,000 in death benefit that she will leave to her beneficiaries. Now, let's say, praise the Lord, she does not need it, right? This is my prayer for all of my clients, of course. Let's say she doesn't need it. Well, guess what? Even when she passes away, she's still going to take that same 100,000 that was sitting idle anyway, pass that on in addition to the 31,000. So do you see, friends, how this is really an ideal repositioning of assets to highly, highly leverage what they've already grown and built, to use it in a much, much bigger way. So my question, friends, what would happen personally right now in your current situation if you had a catastrophic health issue? What would happen? And how could just simply repositioning, reallocation really help you pay for these costs? And one of I get the two biggest concerns that my retiree clients have. One is, do I have enough and so that it won't run out, right? And the number two biggest request that I see is, I never want to be a burden to my children. Ever, ever, ever. Don't want my children to have to worry about my care. Our broker, Alvin, who many of you know, He is very blessed that he's able to do this, but he and his wife are spending over 15,000 a month in long-term care, right, Gary, for his mother-in-law, right? They want her to give her the best care. But imagine if someone had come to Alvin's mother-in-law, a few years back and put something in this, like this plan in place. They would have been able to avoid that. So again, my friends, if you haven't booked your complimentary session yet, what are you waiting for? If any of these realizations are resonating with you, Donis, if you could please be sure and put that link in the chat. Book your session with our team. Okay. We have about 10 more minutes, so hang in here with me, and then we're gonna do our drawing. As long as people have booked their time, we're gonna do our drawing and give that hotel gift card away. So let's talk now about really maximize using leverage. Okay, I'm going to give you a quick little tax code lesson. So really the main benefit of using tax codes is that number one, you can continue to have contributions that grow tax deferred. Okay, gains are locked in every year. Instead of looking at your statement and you might see volatility in the market, what happens is that you are 100% protected from any type of market loss for the entire life of the contract under these types of plans. Okay. You also have critical and long-term care benefits like the ones I just showed you. Okay. It provides an additional tax-free income later in life. And there are no IRS age restrictions or contribution limits. So, not only do I reposition assets for my older clients, a lot of my younger clients, quite frankly, are creating plans like this where they actually have control of their asset from day one. They get market like returns, and yet they do not they're not exposed to market like losses. And this is what I always ask my clients: how in control of your assets are you today? If you are in a 401k plan, if you are less than 59 and a half, you have very little control. So my friends that are on this call that are less than 59 and a half, be sure that when you book your appointment, you tell your advisor, hey, I want to hear about that plan that gives me more control. Okay. Let's move on. As one of the benefits, and this is really a type of strategy. Now, there's many names for it. In this case, we are using this example of something called an indexed whole life. Now, life insurance is not an investment. I want to be very clear, but it is a lot better in many ways. Okay, let me break this down for you. So, as cash value in a product like this accumulates, the insurance policy increases. It is not considered income. It does not, therefore, increase your taxes. So, therefore, does never decreases your actual Social Security benefits. So, my client Mila that I mentioned to you, right? She has a pension. She actually really doesn't need her 401k distribution. But you know what's happening? She's been drawing on Social Security. Every single year that her RMDs keep getting higher, she gets less of her Social Security. Do you see how this is a very high form of leverage? And it also doesn't increase your Medicare premiums. You can see how it's just so much better in so many ways. Now, it uses a strategy called indexing. This is not the same as what you might think of mutual fund indexes. This is a strategy, okay? Now, what this strategy gives you the freedom to do is when the market goes up, your money goes up. And yet, when the market takes a dive like it did in February earlier this year, you would simply go sideways. Okay. Now, what do you get in return for this? Obviously, this guarantee of no loss. You have to have some trade-offs, right? What you are giving up is the maximum rate that it could do. Now, my question to you is, Yeah, you might give a little up. Let's say the market does 13% and you might only get 11, right? But if the market drops 15 or 22% like it did in February, you would lose nothing. My question to you friends is how protected is your asset? Is your hard, you've worked for decades to develop this lump sum. How protected is that asset from market losses right now? And how much more money would you have moving forward if you insulated your asset? You chose to take that money off the roller coaster and never lose again, right? This is an example of just a repositioning. In this case, this is a client of ours that was already putting 7,000 a year into their 401k. Obviously, when you contribute to a 401k, there's no product you're getting as a result of that contribution, right? But with this type of plan, you remember you're actually getting a life insurance plan as well. So if you die too soon, look at this first year. They've contributed $7,000 and their death benefit is over 181,000. In what way, what world can you find a product that gives you 26 extra money, right? You see how it's one of the highest, really, I have not seen a financial tool that provides leverage as much as this tool does. Now, after, let's say they've built this plan for 20 years, just like they have their 401k, but all along the way, they've had a death benefit that protects their family. They've had living benefits that protects their health. Now look at after 20 years, they have an entirely different pool of money that they can access that is entirely tax-free. Entirely tax-free. So my question, friends, are you maximizing your assets? And how much more money and benefit would you get from your money if you implemented these leverage plans? So again, we have a couple more times. We're gonna put this link up, right, Donis? Have you booked your complimentary session? And if you haven't, why haven't you at this point? Unless you just simply don't have any money and you really don't want to save on taxes and you want to keep giving more to the IRS. Otherwise, I see no reason why you wouldn't book it. Okay. So let's just move on to our final point tonight. What is your plan for your legacy? What is your plan, my friends? We want to encourage and help you and foster ways for you to pass it on with a purpose and really leave a lifetime legacy. There's a lot of different types of strategies, but our goal ultimately is to help you eliminate the worry. These slides are a little busy, but I'll tell you just statistically, too many families live with financial insecurity. I want to encourage you, maybe you are not in a position to put life insurance, for example, on yourself. You might have faced a health issue. My husband, he's 53 years old, and he actually faced a health issue. He can no longer get life insurance. Thank God we put things in place when he was young and able to do it, right? You also might be in a position where maybe you're simply too old and the cost benefit is not there. So my question to you is, what about your kids? What about their kids, right? What can you do? What can you gain in knowledge and pass on to your next generation to help them live with financial security? Because life insurance owners feel more secure. Bottom line, 78% of families that have it, they know that they're going to leave a legacy, even if their lifetime retirement is diminished, right? Because they have this. This is an example of, again, just a repositioning of assets. This person, in this case, they took 140,000 of their portfolio and they repositioned it over time into a policy like this. What did that 140,000 turn into? Over 710,000 in a benefit, a legacy benefit to their family, right? So not only is it growing tax-free for your benefit, giving you, we like to call it not just the paycheck, that could be not an income, but an ifcome potentially, and turn it into a play check, right, Gary? Where they have fun money. I have so many clients in retirement that, have pushed maybe travel aside, or, I have one client right now, her desire, her dream is to take every one of her 9 grandchildren on a trip of their choice, right? When they turn 18. And guess what? Her question was, can I create a plan that will help me do that? Well, what do you think, Gary? If she created a plan like this, do you think 869,000 would enable her to take her grandkids on a great holiday, right? And imagine, still look at over 975,000 in legacy when she passes away at 86, right? We really want to encourage all of you. If you do not come from a wealthy family, um, that doesn't mean a wealthy family can't come from you. And I want you to ask yourselves, will you be the one to change your family tree? And how can a waterfall plan, this is really what this example is, elevate your family? So, as we're wrapping up, friends, I want to encourage all of you to book your time with our team. Make sure also, one of my favorite things to show um, grandparents and parents is how to create $1 million baby plan for their loved ones. And by the way, my babies are 17, 22, and 25. They all have $1 million baby plan. How many grandbabies do we have on this call that are represented that you're already putting money away for these kids, right? Imagine if you could actually guarantee in your lifetime that you help them become $1 million babies. It's a pretty special plan. So again, one last time, friends, we're going to drop that link. Um, Donis, let me ask you. I don't know. I'm feeling kind of generous. I feel like we should give one hotel voucher away, just even if nobody booked. What do you think? Gary, are you cool with that if we do that? You
Absolutely.
good with that? Okay, okay. So, friends, again, obviously this time is valuable for you. You opted into this workshop for a reason. Um, for those of you that did book your time with us, what should you expect from your financial professional? First of all, make sure they understand your needs and they always put your best interest first. We really want to make sure that we're providing, yes, education, but really also realization, right? I have a client recently that I met with. She had been working with an advisor that was, quite frankly, she was starting to bring her ideas. And I said, when you are starting to bring your advisor ideas, that might be a sign that you're in the wrong room. You're talking to the wrong people, right? You should expect to receive a written action plan, and absolutely have communication periodically, whether it's in person. We have offices all over the nation. And quite frankly, after COVID, a lot of our clients are preferring the benefits of meeting via Zoom. So, the next steps are booking that appointment. We will be available either via Zoom or in person, depending on your location. Get those free reports that Gary talked about, and work with us to create a customized, comprehensive plan. And all clients will receive this complimentary 5-step financial certainty report as well as part of their estate plan. Together, we will continue to persevere and make the impossible possible in our mighty mission of No Family Left Behind. So, friends, thank you for joining us tonight. Donis, were you able to get the wheel ready for us to see who is going to be our lucky winner?
Well, there's only one person who in the chat asked for an appointment. I think that should be our winner.
I think so too. Absolutely.
Isabel?
Who was it, Isabel?
Isabel?
Okay, super.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
Isabel.
Well, wonderful. Well, Isabel, congratulations. We're excited to get you that gift card. And we will make sure, be expecting, if you haven't already, be expecting a Zoom link from our team so that you will be able to hop on Zoom and we'll be able to get all your questions answered. So, friends, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I wish you amazing blessings in this life journey that we're all on. And if we don't see you in the next couple of days on one of our appointments, we hope to see you in the very near future. God bless everybody.
Hi, Janice.